Hello and welcome to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I'm Robert Haynes. I will be your host, your guide into the world of TSM. Today we're going to do a chill stream so that everybody can wake up or go to bed with a soothing voice. Just kidding. I don't know if my voice is soothing to you or not, but it's going to be a good week, I think, for us to go over some stuff. There have been some announcements in the last 24 hours that I think will be of interest to people, and I'm really excited to get into those. As for announcements for this show, nothing major. We're heading towards the end of the year. We've got some good stuff going on right now, and I'm pretty excited to continue doing this. Thank you for everybody who's listening/watching on YouTube. Last episode was by far and away the most watched/listened to by a lot. So thank you all for your support. I hope you continue to enjoy this show. And yeah, let's jump into it. So the Academy roster has officially been finalized. Here's how it stacks up. Hanser in the top lane, returning to TSM. Babip coming over from the Oceania, I believe, or the Oceanic League. I believe he was on the Worlds team. He was for Legacy Esports. He was also on Mammoth. And I believe that they both made Worlds in back-to-back years. Then you have Sword in the mid lane, the young gun, somebody who people have been chomping at the bit to have on the team. Then Cody's son, yes, you heard that correctly, in the bot lane. And then a player named Yursan coming over from the Taiwanese league. So that's your roster for the 2020 Academy team. And there's surprisingly a lot to talk about with that team. Because first off, that's a team that should succeed. That is a team that should do very, very well when you look at who is going to perform in Academy, because a lot of the really good Academy players, like, a Blaze Olive, Diamond, Palafox, those kinds of players, Lost, have left the Academy League, and now it's a bunch of young guns and some vets, but it just seems like TSM are kind of stacked. So TSM Academy, LCS Academy title incoming? ? Maybe. Before I dive too much deeper, though, I do need to say it was also announced yesterday that Evolved will be leaving TSM and becoming a full-time content creator, which I wish him all the best. I got to interview him at the beginning of the 2020 season. He seemed like a good kid. I know that he has done some morally reprehensible things while playing, or I should say maybe ethically. And hopefully he's figured that stuff out, and hopefully he can be a good content creator. He said that he felt like, TSM gave him a chance. He wanted to learn, and he just found that content creation was more his thing. So, hopefully he doesn't become a toxic content creator, but either way, you're gone too soon, Evolved from the LCS. I still think you had plenty of talent to show the world. But either way, going into this roster, I want to go by position. And I'm going to start at kind of the less controversial ones. let's go straight into Babip. Babip's a really nice backup for TSM. I think he was probably the strongest jungler coming out of the OCE, and we've seen other OCE players like Raze and Destiny get starting spots. I think Babip potentially could have gotten a starting spot on a lower tier team. Would not surprise me if Golden Guardians maybe reach out if things aren't working out with Iconic. I hope they do, but if not, wouldn't surprise me. So he's a really nice addition, somebody to have behind Spica. Just in case, I guess, if Spica struggles, I doubt he will, but, if for some reason Spica just falls off the face of the planet in terms of talent, then I guess Babip's at least a, solid backup there. Sword is somebody who everybody wants to see developed. I think learning behind PoE and Bjergsen is going to be insanely good for that kid. So, he's already playing games with like Spica and Lost apparently, and we all know the talent this kid has. I think he kind of just chills here for a little while, and then we get to see him go ham for TSM in 2023 probably. Again, remember, this is a developmental league, so they want to set him up for success, and by 2023 he's only going to be, I think, 20 years old. So, yeah, give him a little time, and we'll see. Again, like I said in my last one, I really liked Evolved, but I understand how good Sword can be, so I'm pretty excited to see this. This may make me watch Academy games, by the way, this team specifically. Then Yursan, I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but this was the most interesting one. He only has 2 years of playing experience. He's only 19 years old, and he's from Taiwan. Huh. Sword Art's from Taiwan. Yursan's from Taiwan. Put on your tinfoil hats, fam. I believe that this is intentional. I think they want him to learn under Sword Art. I think TSM is playing the developmental long game and wants this kid to develop under Sword Art. And it seems to me, when looking at players like Sword and Yursan specifically, that TSM have a plan. TSM want to use their academy team to truly develop talent. And not only that, but to scrim against. I have to think that they are going to be playing each other quite a bit. Because why else would Yursan specifically be the one who they sign? If not to learn under Sword Art. And maybe even he came at Sword Art's recommendation. Maybe they were like, hey, all right, who is the best young Taiwanese player that that we could sign to our academy team that you could help coach up? And I think that's going to be the mindset. Bjergsen has, apparently been doing this for a long time, not even just in his role, but, in the role in general. Parth has made it very clear in the announcement of this team that's the goal. So, yeah, I kind of love these moves. Then you add on top of it Hanser and Cody's son. Now, people are going to see that and be like, what? Why is Hanser in Academy? Why is Cody's son in Academy? We know what they can do. I think people in the lower tier teams, which is where they would normally start, right? They don't want to recycle players anymore. They want to try to find the next talent, and they want to, grow talent, and that's something NA needs, so don't complain about it. But for TSM, we should be hyped. This is great. This is fantastic. Cody's son is going to make Lost better. Or he's going to take over the position. Period. This is the way. Right? Like, Cody's son is a solid AD carry. He has been to Worlds multiple times. He has quietly been one of the more consistent AD carries over the last 5 years. He's a solid player. He is somebody who does not get nearly enough recognition for how solid he is. He reminds me a lot of how people see PoE, just not at that same level. Okay? Now, it still surprised me that he didn't have a job. I will admit Cody Sun is a friend of the Game House to a certain degree. He normally does interviews with us once a year intentionally. So I'm going to hopefully try to ask him if he would be willing to come on and talk with me on the show. So, I mean, no promises there. And Cody, if you're listening, which you might be, hit me up. Shoot me that DM, brother. I would love to get you on here. But anywho, I love this pickup. I love it. I love it so much. I think he is going to make Lost better because Lost is going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I need to really play my butt off, right? Because if I don't, then Cody Sun's going to come and take my spot. And that will happen because Cody Sun's good enough to where if he's not one of the top 2, maybe top 3, I guess. I'd have to really look at Academy, but at least one of the top 2 80 carries in Academy, potentially the best one, I would be shocked. I really would be. And, you know, he's still only 23. He's got plenty of talent left in him. You know, he counts as an A, so, you know, I love this move. It's to not only make the players like Yursan better and Sword and Babbitt, right? You give them that veteran presence, somebody who's been there, who's been to playoffs, who has been to finals, who has been to worlds. But you give them somebody who's going to challenge Lost. And I think that that's something that the LCS has lacked for years. Everybody has complained about, well, these players think they have such cushy jobs. Nobody's going to take their jobs. Well, in the last couple of years, we've seen that Academy players will take jobs. And TSM, this is a signal to Lost. We trust you, Lost. But if you don't perform, or we don't see you performing, we don't see you getting better, then guess what? We have Cody Sun right here. And he will come in and he will take your job. And I think that extra pressure is healthy. That competition is healthy. Now, we can look at the exact same thing, except with Hooney, his leash is probably a heck of a lot shorter because by signing Hanser, and I think TSM wanted to do this a long time ago. I think they've probably been in talks with Hanser for a while, and they said, listen, we want to get Hooney, but we want to sign you too. Because we know what you can do. We know that you can at least be a stable presence where Hooney is not. And with both of them being NA, you can flip them in and out. It would not surprise me to see Hanser get at least a few games up on TSM, on the main team. And he had arguably his best year, not even arguably, he had his best year on Golden Guardians last year. He was solid. I was considering putting him at least on the 3rd team for All-Pro LCS. I really was. I was like, man, I feel like if I'm leaving Hanser out, like I may be doing him a disservice. He had a great year last year. And it's sad, him being 25 and all, like, you know, he's not really near the end of his career, I don't think. I think this will be a pit stop for him. I also think he will be one of the best, if not the best, player at his position in Academy. And I can feel comfortable saying that about Sword and potentially Babbitt too, by the way. That's what I'm saying. This TSM Academy team is going to be awesome. But, yeah, I'm very excited because Hanser will absolutely light a fire under Hooney. And Hooney already has a fire lit under himself. He does put a lot of pressure on himself. So, yeah, having Hanser, and if he were to come back, I remember writing this in my top lane options for TSM. Should Hooney not work out, Hanser ended up working out, or at least coming over. I said, you know, it'd be funny because the only one who they'd be missing from the iconic team of Hanser, Bjergsen, Doublelift, bio daddy would be Sven Skaren if they brought in Hanser. And in the last year, we have seen all four of the 5 come home / be on TSM. And that should make us feel good. And we should go out and support this Academy team, guys. You know, if we want the scene to get bigger and better, let's watch Academy. Let's enjoy this team. And I'm going to. I can promise you that. I really want to see what Sword can do. I really want to see what your son can do. I want to see if Babbitt can be a good backup for us. I want to see if Cody's son and Hanser can put the pressure and come in and work their butts off to get Hooney and Lost to really feel the fire, because this team wants to win now. And I think that the signings of Hanser and Cody's son signal that. If this team struggles for like a month straight, right, like 4 or 5 weeks straight of them struggling, because remember, this is going to be a season. It's not just going to be a split, at least from the rumors, right? We're going to have 34 games in total in the season before we get like our official playoffs. And I think that if through, 10 games or so, either Hooney or Lost are struggling mightily or getting outclassed, Hanser and Cody's son will fill right in. I mean, a roster of Hanser, Spica, Power of Evil, Cody's son, and Sword Art is not a bad one. Now, Lost has more potential, I think, than Cody's son currently. Again, Cody's son is what he is, and he is solid. But Lost could be as good as FBI was in the playoffs last year. And I compare him because they came from the same region, all that stuff. But, hell, he could even be like tactical for all we know. He could be that kind of a player. So we'll just have to see, he did not get a real chance with Echo Fox, and that was not a very stable organization, as we saw. So, yeah. And, Hanser is who he is, but he's solid. He is solid, and he will get the job done, which is why he has had a job in the LCS since 2015. So, yeah, TSM Academy, very excited for that team and for what it means for TSM as a whole. Now I want to talk about something that may make fans not very happy. Give me a second here. I got to take a drink before I go into this one. I released my way too early power rankings, LCS power rankings for 2021 yesterday, which has been going off very well. People have been enjoying it. People have been agreeing with me, which is rare, right? Reddit, League of Legends Reddit. They agree with me? What? Crazy stuff in the world right now, fam. But here's my, I guess, my official rankings for those of you who would like to know. Let me pull it up. I was not anticipating going into this, but I wanted to, at least for a quick second. So here we go, pulling this up now. So here we go. From 10 to 1, I got Dignitas at 10, Golden Guardians at 9, Immortals at 8, CLG at 7, Evil Geniuses at 6, FlyQuest at 5, TSM at 4, Hunter Thieves at 3, Cloud9 at 1A/2, and Team Liquid at 1. So, let me explain and defend myself for why I power ranked TSM at 4th. We've talked about this team at length, and I wanted to take a real good look at not only TSM, but how they stack up to everybody else. I will say I'm a little afraid of FlyQuest. I think FlyQuest could be a team to be wary of. I think CLG and Evil Geniuses could be as well. I think Immortals, Golden Guardians, and Dignitas, those are the teams we need to beat. And we should beat those below us too. But especially at the beginning of the year. Now, these power rankings will either change monthly or weekly. I haven't really decided yet. But when I look at it, right, we have a lot of change. We have 80% of our team changing. And even if they become like they have their own handshake type best friends, this team is still going to need time to develop on the Rift. Now I'm talking about TSM, by the way. It's just it's how it's going to be, right? I mean, it's going to take lost time to really work with Sword Art and develop that bond that we saw with that Doublelift and Biofrost had. And even Doublelift talked about it when Treats came in, right? I mean, he was like, it's going to take time. They looked solid too at times. They looked like they were on the same freaking page at all times, but like he admitted they weren't. And that's why they went back to Biofrost, right? During the playoffs. They needed somebody who they were confident in that synergy. And that synergy is really important for bot lane duos. Luckily, most of these duos across the LCS are going to be playing together for the first time. The only ones who will not are Raze and Destiny. Now, they haven't played together in a year, but still. FBI and Huhi. Vulcan and Sven. And Tactical and Core JJ. So, a lot of the other teams are going to be going through the same thing as TSM, but hey, they not only have that, but Power of Evil's new, right? Although he seems to fit in wherever. Like that he's like a chameleon. He just jumps into whatever new team he has. He gets those colors on, and he just performs, man. He just performs. And then we have Huni, who is a coin flip at best for right now. And again, I've talked about my confidence levels in him. I do like him. I'm glad he's here. I'm excited to see him perform. But he's a coin flip. We don't know which Huni we're going to get, right? So we got to be careful of that. And then Spica's only really had one split and playoffs and Worlds, right? Which is a lot of experience. I mean, that's enough games to basically equal out to one full year overall. And the experience he gained and what he showed, oh God, especially in the playoffs and at Worlds. I mean, he's got so much talent. And so I'm not overly worried, but he still has to work on these new synergies, right? He doesn't have Broken Blade up in the top lane anymore, which still makes me sad, by the way. I just want to say real quick, I saw the TSM video saying bye to Broken Blade yesterday while I was doing some research. I wanted to cry. I did. I love that boy so much. Losing him breaks my heart. Anyways, so this team's going to take time to develop. And when you look at the teams above them, right, and who they have to be better than, when you look at 100 Thieves, they've got the synergy of Closer, Demonte, FBI, and Huhi. Someday is good enough that he will fit in with that team. That team is going to be ready to roll. Day one, they are going to be like solid. And if FBI and Huhi continue what they did during playoffs, they may be the best bot lane in the LCS. And that's a bold take. I understand that. But even Doublelift said it. I believe that may be true. They were the bot lane that gave TSM the biggest headache on their way to an LCS championship. And that included Vulcan and Sven. And that included Tactical and Core JJ. Now, I will say I think Tactical Core JJ will probably end up being the best one, which is why I have them ranked first. But either way, they're all used to each other. So, excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. That was strange. My music just randomly came on because of the website. Anyways, getting back to it, you head into Cloud9, and that team's just good. Fudge was really solid. He's good. He will probably be better than Huni. All right, Blabber and Spica already have their rivalry. I love that. I think it's going to be great. PoE versus Perks is going to be fun to watch. I'm sure Perks will come out on top eventually. That team's going to need a little time to come together too, but and Perks is moving to the United States for the first time. Then you have, Sven and Vulcan, and for at least a split and a half, They were the most dominant bot lane we've ever seen. Like, don't forget, Sven didn't die basically for the first 4 games of the season last year. And Vulcan's one of the best supports. Yeah, they struggled near the end of the year, and I think that there were a lot of reasons for that. But Cloud9's going to be good. And then Team Liquid, they are who they are. They add Alfari and Santorin. They spend the money. They're like the Yankees, if you're a baseball fan, of the LCS. They have a higher cap, have higher budget. They spent more money than anybody else. And that team is really good because of it. Alfari will potentially be the best, if not, he's going to be battling, someday for the best top laner. Santorin potentially, was at least last year and potentially is still the best jungler in the LCS. Jensen's going to battle PoE, as we know, and Perks. Those are the top 3. And that bot lane, man, oh man, Tactical might be the best AD carry in the LCS already. And he's probably the best NA talent we've seen since Double Lift. So, and then Core JJ is Core JJ. And he's getting ready to be part of the married man meta. So, listen, I love this TSM team. I am very hopeful for them. I still think they can push for a top 2. I think they could even surprise and really be the best team in the LCS. There is absolutely that possibility. But for right now, when I look at the teams above them, they don't stack up as well to start. They will take time. Every team does. Please don't be upset with me. Yeah, they're 4th for right now, guys. And that's okay. That is okay considering all the things that we have lost. Considering all of the changes that have been made from top to bottom in this organization. This is a transitional year. And if we make Worlds this year, which I think we can, and I really, 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 really hope we do, that is a huge freaking win for this team, guys. That is a huge win. You don't understand. It's not as easy as going into your Clash game with your buddies and dominating, right? Like this is the top of the top. And I know the LCS is a meme or whatever. These are still the best players, at least in this region, and they're all playing against each other, and they're all going, they're all going ham at each other. And this is just the way it is. And while we are used to dominance and being one of the best, and I think that we will be eventually, as I've preached and I will continue to preach, be patient, be patient, be patient. This team will eventually come together one way or another. Doesn't matter if it's the Huni Lost version, or if it's the Haunter Lost version, or if it's the Huni Cody Sun version, which I believe we've seen. I think that was maybe a Clutch Gaming team. But anyways, or even the Cody Sun Haunter version. Whatever version it is of this team, they will find success eventually because of what we're about to talk about in the last segment, which is TSM's coaching staff. Now, this comes from ye old Matthew Highsmith, good friend of TGH, and somebody, if you want to go follow him on Twitter at LOW Smithy, SMITHY, so at Low Smithy, do it. He is a Diamond League player and somebody who is very smart on all things LCS. There's your plug, Matthew. And this is what can happen to you too, by the way, if you send me questions that you would like for me to answer. I do believe I will have, by the way, a guest for next week, or at least something similar to what we did a couple weeks ago. So that should be fun. But topic 3, TSM's coaching staff. So I looked through, kind of what they have right now. And so I'm going to go through each thing individually, each person, I should say, individually, starting at the bottom, and I'll work my way up, and I'll give kind of my thoughts on this coaching staff, which I think is going to be potentially one of the best, if not the best, in the LCS. I think they will be challenging Team Liquid for that title. So starting with Hatham, a Miami University boy, if I remember correctly. My alma mater, Miami University in Ohio, by the way, not Florida. Was part of one of the better esports programs in the country. Then he got signed and has officially moved to a data analyst position with the team, which means, he'll be, I think, really analyzing everything that the team is doing, and more than likely he will be the one, helping to come up with the strategy of how the team's going to work and what things are working and what aren't. So, no surprise there. David Dennis, I don't really know anything about, but he's had a performance and psychology trainer. I would assume that he's the one who helps them with their workouts and, with their mental training and everything. So I apologize, David Dennis, if you're listening to this. I would love to get to know you more. Come on the show. Peter is staying with the team as the head of player development, which I find to be interesting. So that means that he is literally going to be the one who is, I believe he is still staying as the head coach for TSM Academy. At least that's what this announcement said. Basically, it says Peter Zhang will remain in his role as head of player development and will continue his work with the Academy team. So, and this is in the official announcement. So I would assume that means that he is still going to be the head coach of TSM Academy. And as a player developer, I believe he will also have some say in what TSM Junior, or whatever they're calling their third team, will be as well. Now, I don't know who's going to run that. That has not been announced, and we don't know who that team is yet. But I would imagine they're still going to have one. Then, Jack, I think it's Kays, has come over as a strategic coach and a head scout, which is interesting. So Kays, when looking at it, has been working for Origin, has worked for Team Liquid in the past, Fnatic in the past, United, if you recognize that, Direwolves, so he spent some time in OCE and EU and NA. He, funny enough, was suspended for unacceptable behavior in his games, which is interesting. And went and joined TSM, and this was when he was on Origin, so I guess maybe he was being toxic in-game, which is not a great trait for a coach, but I'd imagine this guy's pretty smart and pretty good at his job, so that's why they're bringing him in. He had been helping Origin for a while, so it'll be interesting to have him back, or not back, excuse me, that's for a different person, but it'll be interesting to have him. I think the most interesting part of his title is the fact that he is, let me make sure I get this right, the head scout. So not only a strategic coach, but a head scout. So I'm wondering if he's going to be the one watching the games or watching players. Like, I don't really know how they're defining scout, because I think it's very different, by the way, for those of you who don't know, in traditional sports and what they do. So sometimes a head scout will be somebody who's literally going out and scouting players for the team to bring in, or they will be the person who is scouting other teams to give information to the team for their games against them. And then sometimes it's both. But it sounds like if he's going to be a strategic coach and a head coach, and a head scout, then that means that he's going to be scouting all the other LCS teams and looking for weaknesses in their game and what they do to make sure that the rest of the team is totally ready to go. I would imagine that's going to be his job, is, watching what Team Liquid are doing, watching what C9 are doing. I'm sure he'll be watching a lot of VODs, probably a lot of Twitch streams. He'll be checking the op.gg pages, seeing how everybody's doing. I'm kind of making that part up, but I do assume watching teams, giving it back to TSM, letting them know the information that he has found so that they can find their advantages elsewhere. So I like that. I don't know that they had that position last year, so I'm very excited about that. Then they are bringing back Curry. So Curry is an interesting person because he was with TSM in 2017. He was an assistant coach. Then he went to Clutch. With Clutch, he became the head coach for an interim once D-Lim left. Then they both went to Academy, where he was, I believe, the head coach of FlyQuest Academy. Yeah, for a little bit, and then he went straight into being, in 2019, the assistant coach of FlyQuest, has been a major part of that organization's run towards prominence and building up that team and making them really good. And he has worked with Power of Evil. So that's a really nice connection. I love this signing. I think Curry is going to be great for this team. I think he is very well spoken. I remember listening to him during press conferences during this past playoffs. He's very well spoken. He's super smart. It was him and D-Lim, I believe. Both of them were there. I don't know where D-Lim's going. That's a whole different topic. But, yeah, I think them bringing him back, he gained a lot of experience. He knows how to work specifically with Power of Evil. And he's a super smart guy. And I think he's going to help, somebody like Bjergsen in his first year of coaching extraordinarily well. He's going to be able to be like, as a head coach, you should be doing this, or, let me help you with these aspects. And I think that that's going to be something that TSM will value a lot, and probably a major reason that they went after him. You got to remember this FlyQuest team finished second in both splits. They were a good team, and a lot of that, in my opinion, was as much coaching as it was players. And I think that that's going to be extremely important going into next year. Now, he hasn't been named, but when looking at the Gamepedia page, when looking at their social media, it looks like Mabry might be staying. He is still listed as an assistant coach right now. I know he struggled mightily at Worlds to give them good drafts, but I don't think he even went, so I can't really say that that was his fault. But we remember if you've watched TSM Legends, you saw Mabry had a major impact on this team in the way that they did everything, basically. And so I am happy that he's staying, hopefully. I am not sure that he is, but I hope he does. I think Mabry was a really nice part of this team, and I think he is somebody who has shown that he understands how to do drafts and that he understands how to play to his coaches or his players, strong suits. I really like him. I think he's going to be a solid player, solid coach for them still. I hope he stays. He's been allowed to look for other opportunities. I think he was more looking for head coaching positions. Now, I will say, most of the academy teams do not have their head coach, but I believe every LCS team does. So he might be more inclined to stay and wait for an LCS job when that becomes available, and that will help TSM immensely. Then, last but not least, we'll go into quickly Parth and Bjergsen. Parth is staying as some sort of general manager type position. He's clearly one of the most trusted people in this organization. I don't know if he's ever going to leave, which is fine. I think he'll be able to help Bjergsen and kind of be that mentor for him as a, former head coach of TSM. So that's great. And then for Bjerg, I don't know that I've talked much about how I feel about Bjerg as a head coach. I think I did maybe in the inaugural episode of this podcast, but I love Bjerg as a head coach. I assumed that one day he would retire and become the TSM head coach. I didn't expect it to be this early, but this was something that I did expect. Bjergsen is a solid mind in the world of League of Legends. He understands things at such a deep level. And he's apparently always been helping his teammates and helping coach them. And now he gets to focus on that. And yeah, maybe I guess maybe he's just done playing. I think just the toll and the mental tax has been so much. And we'll see if that holds true as a coach. But either way, we're likely getting 2 years of Bjergsen as a head coach, by the way. At least until Power of Evil leaves. Then maybe he'll consider playing again. Because he realistically can't play for any other team, right? Like, you got to remember that he co-owns TSM. He is a part owner of TSM. And it may be similar to Sneaky. If Sneaky leaves C9 to go play for another team, which is probably why he's not playing for another team, then he would lose his shares in Cloud9. I think the same probably would happen to Bjergsen if he tried to go play somewhere else. Now, TSM may, be like, hey, don't worry about it. We'll bring you back one day as a streamer or something, right? But it is in his best interest to help TSM. As a co-owner of a business, it is in your best interest that the business does well, right? So I think we're getting at least 2 years of him, and I think that's great. Okay, this team is better with him on it in some way, shape, or form. We're not losing him completely, and I think him as a head coach is going to be great. I think Power of Evil is going to have his best year ever. And that's saying a lot because last year was really good. He was if you didn't see my other piece where I compared PoE, Perks, and Jensen, PoE was the best LCS mid laner last year in terms of a lot of areas, a lot of statistical categories. And I know, Bjergsen beat him out a couple times, and Jensen, had his way with him a couple times. But, like, overall, Power of Evil is going to benefit from Bjergsen being his coach. The whole team is going to benefit. Spica, the last remaining member, is going to be, he's going to know Bjerg, right? He's going to know how Bjerg talks. He's going to understand his thinking, his logic, and that's going to be important. And if there's somebody who can bring out the best in their players, I think Bjergsen's one of those people. And damn it all, if I don't think that he is going to be the best head coach in the LCS next year. And I will say that. I will die on that hill. I think normally when a former player in traditional sports becomes a head coach, especially one that is considered to be really smart, one who also was good, they're normally some of the best coaches in their respective sport. Now, occasionally you'll have players too who, kind of suck and they just got there because of name. But that doesn't happen very often, and we don't have to worry about that with Bjergsen. Bjergsen's not becoming a head coach because he was great on the Rift. Bjergsen is becoming the head coach of TSM because he was great on the Rift and he knows the game. He's got a leader's mentality. He has the charisma. He has the knowledge. He has everything you would ever want in a head coach, and he was the best. Arguably the best at his position, in the LCS at least, by the time he retired. If that doesn't show you that he is going to be, like, I truly think, I'm going to be real with you, fam. I don't see this team finishing higher than 5th or 6th without Bjergsen. At least in their first year. Again, I think they have plenty of talent. I think they can do it on their own. But I think it's going to require good coaching to bring this team together, to make sure their drafts are good, to make sure that their game knowledge and everything comes together. And who better to do that than freaking Bjergsen, man? Who better? Nobody. He will win Coach of the Year in the LCS. And if he doesn't, it'll probably be Reignover, both former players. And if Reignover wins, it's going to be because they signed Perks. That's going to be why. But it should go to Bjergsen. Like, I already have him penciled in as my coach of the year when I get to vote. Which I do. And that may be biased. That's fine. And maybe somebody else will come out of the woodwork. Maybe, I don't know, Evil Genius's new head coach who came over from EU. I forget his name right now. Maybe he will bring Evil Geniuses to first place and somehow trump everybody. I don't know. But, like, especially if TSM finish, like, top 2 or win the LCS, that I'm sorry. I love our players. I think they are very talented. But that would be because of Bjergsen, in my mind, and his coaching staff. So, yeah, that's how I feel about Bjergsen. He is super, super smart. He's going to be so great. I could gush and gush and gush and gush and gush, and I probably already have. But I feel like you guys will probably feel the same way. So, this is a show about TSM. So, if you don't feel the same way and you're listening, then thank you for listening, even if you're not a TSM fan. I would love to hear your thoughts on my ramblings, but either way, yes, this coaching staff is going to be solid overall. I love it. I think the combination of Bjergsen, hopefully Mabry, definitely Curry, Kays, Peter, Hatham, good old David Dennis, who I don't know very well, so I apologize about that, David. But either way, I love it. I think they're going to be great. Love this team. Really, really think this is going to be a good team. So, with that, we are at the end of the show. Sorry, I went a little bit longer today. I try to keep it between 30 and 45 minutes. Generally try to keep it at 30, but there were some things still to go over. And, once the offseason gets a little, once we get deep into it here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, right, it's going to be potentially a little bit less interesting things to talk about. So, anyways, if you like the show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel, which about 65% of you do. So, please go give, a like, subscribe, and comment. Also, hit the bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Do it. I want to make this the #1 TSM podcast on all podcasting platforms. If you feel so inclined, please leave a review, especially if you're listening on Apple. That would be extremely appreciated. And lastly, please share this with your friends, whether they be TSM fans or LCS fans. I would love to have a wide audience so that I can talk about things with them. You can find the official tweet if you're on Twitter, either on my account at TGHRobertHanes, Hanes, or at the Gamehouse's Twitter account at TGHEsports. And if you're talking about the show, please use the hashtag TalkingTSM when tweeting or sharing. Lastly, real quickly, I do want to give a quick shout out. This was something that I'm sorry to break in the middle of my outro, but I do want to give a shout out to the TSM Valorant team for finishing second at First Strike. This is something that people had asked me to talk about. I do follow the Valorant team decently well, and maybe I will add some other things about TSM teams, at least if they do something significant, like the Rainbow Six team seemingly does, and now the Valorant team, because, hey, we're TSM, and, well, we're good at everything. So, great job to the Valorant team. I know they finished second, but, it was a good series, and I would be shocked if that team doesn't come back and absolutely spank everybody the next time, because they are very good. So, shout out to them. And with that, thank you for tuning in. The show comes out every Thursday, and it is exclusively for your TSM earholes. I'm Robert Hanes, and this has been Talking TSM. See you next week.